フルカウンター
Alright lads, welcome back. So it is time for a Grand Cross tier list. I haven't done one in probably over a year now. Didn't really play too much PvP, but in the recent weeks, and especially the last 2 weeks now, I've been playing a lot of PvP. So I think I know a little bit of the meta now. Today, we're only doing PvP. If you want to see a PvE tier list, then do let me know. But generally speaking, you can use almost every character. The only challenging content out there is obviously the MonoP battle. And unless it's Golden Hati and also the new Nidhogger boss, then you can generally use anyone. It's not that hard. Plus, it's probably a lot easier because now I don't need to mix up the PvE characters that are generally quite good with the characters that are somewhat decent in PvP, and you kind of get them confused. So it's better just to focus more or less on PvP. Today, we have 5 tiers. The first tier, at the bottom tier, we have Don't Use. As you can imagine, these are characters you're just never going to see in PvP. The next tier, we have YouTube Showcase. This is characters that are basically somewhat competent, and honestly, you're probably only ever going to see these characters for a YouTuber Showcase. It's as simple as that. They're sort of decent, but like not really. You might use them once or twice, but you're never going to use them again. The next tier, we have sub-meta. These are top tier characters in a way, but not really going to be carrying the team. These are going to be like characters used in the sub slot, characters that are going to be somewhat niche and depending on what team you're bringing. Definitely can perform quite well depending on what team you're going up against and what team you bring. But a few of these characters on this tier are either getting a bit outdated, need relics, or just need a better team. And of course, we have the top tier one. These are top tier characters. You are going to find these characters in almost every single game, depending on what race you are finding. These are just broken characters that are going to carry the game, win you the game. Although you probably can't see who's in the tier list right now, you can probably guess who's going to be. So start off with the bottom tier, that is Don't Use. Honestly, you can see on screen now, it is just characters you're not going to use. It's as simple as that. We'd have to go too long in this one. The next tier, we have obviously YouTube Showcase, and I'll quickly break down some of the characters in here already. Like I said, you can use these characters. Let's go through the most important ones so far, because I know you might have some questions, but Doji, why is she there? You can charm Mayel and almost win the game. It's kind of outrageous. Like, she's not a good character, but you can use her. We're going to focus on Rudius. They are ranked in order. I did go through all of them. So from this tier upwards, they are ranked in order. But Rudius right now just doesn't have a team. I mean, you're not going to use him. After the PP rule does leave for the club characters, then you're not going to use his character. But I do think that would change in the future once we get more better humans, especially with Chaos Alpha and obviously possibly Signature Bond Company's anniversary. Rudius just needs a team and he's broken. But unfortunately right now, he is the main DPS and he's just not that many good humans. Sario, I mean, it's a good option, but there's just better goddesses right now. You just definitely rather use Elizabeth. You'd probably even rather use Red Tamiel or even Light Elizabeth. There's just so much better options right now than to use Sario. Freya, unfortunately, got cocked hard with the Ragnarok nerf. I mean, you didn't really get nerf, but you got countered hard by obviously Mayel and the fact that you can't have stat lowers. But I think when we get more Ragnarok characters, then she could become a bit more meta. Roxy, honestly, after doing a lot of testing with her, she's not that bad. A lot of people think that if you destroy the shield, she's basically useless. But you gotta remember, a lot of times she is just eating up an actual Mayel AoE. I think she is very meta dependent on what's going on with her team and what's also out in the meta. I think if she was around during the Summer Merlin meta, the Taxil team, then she would be quite broken. Mayel is definitely keeping that team in check, but honestly, I think you could use in the Summer Merlin team and be quite good. But once again, we have to wait and see what comes out in the future. Maybe we get Signature Bond that comes out that counters the goddess teams completely, and no one's no longer using goddesses, but he has 2 attack skills, and then that's when the Summer Merlin team comes back and we see Roxy. Once again, I don't think she's a great character, but I do think you can use her, and once again, depending on what comes out in the future, you may see a use in her, but other than that, she's yeah, a bit meh. Other than that, I think everyone in this tier list is pretty self-explanatory. They are just competent characters you can use, and while they be very bad and you're definitely at a disadvantage for bringing these characters, you can win 1 or 2 games. Once again, there are just better choices. Now, let's move on to sub-meta. So, these are characters, like I said, that even need relics or very, very good, depending on what team you're bringing, and or just in the sub-slot characters. So, Luducio is definitely good, man. I found my fair share of a few of them this week, and he's still top tier. He can win you the game because of RCCing people, but I think he's obviously not doing most of the work. His skills are really bad. It's just you got RCC, but at that point, you got to have really, really high box CC, high constellation, and if you're waiting to the point where you can out-CC a lot of people, you probably already have one of the best teams in the game, and you'd rather just use that. Definitely a fun character to bring and definitely still viable. Gopher, I think, would have been top tier last or 2 weeks ago, but I think obviously now with the new unknown support that we get with Ghislaine, he is obviously kind of falling out the unknown team a little bit. Still really good though. That relic is broken, it is insane. Gopher is here mainly because the drain's not too useful now, but the rank up and all the attack rate stats is still important. I've been beaten by a few this week as well because they just rank up at tier 3 Escanor skills and just win the game basically. Roxy, I think once again, just use the ultimate Escanor. He's so powerful, she can be used. Especially I found a few of them with Ludicio just to get guaranteed crits. Not bad. Cusack and obviously Chandler, the demon ones, they are good, don't get me wrong. They are probably on the meta teams in the sub slot. That's the thing, the sub slot. They don't really do anything else for the team other than just buffing up in the sub slot. If they had relics that were more competent by themselves, but typically when these characters come in, they're not that great. Philo, honestly, I've not used too much of her recently, so maybe she is top tier, but I think right now with Ghislaine being better than her, better CC, just way more better to deal with demons. She can't one-shot a lot of teams nowadays. It's not great, especially against the demon team, so I think she's a little bit there if you don't have Ghislaine. So yeah, I think she's sub-meta. Sub-meta attacks is important. Obviously, you may find a demon team, and at that point, you know, you might do quite well, but there are little goddesses, and at that point, you're probably going to get slapped. King... you know, he's alright, I think if you get the buff of the relic on, you start first, it's pretty decent, but generally speaking, the character is not the greatest, but I admit I've lost a few games to him because, not really because of him, but, you know, you do give base stats towards Escanor, for example, and Escanor can just one-shot a lot of people. Assault Melee with his relic, I think he's decent. I don't think he's great, but I think he's decent. Once again, I think the fact that Purg Melee is just so much better than him, you are probably, it's making me want to move him down, to be honest with you, love, but I still think the character's quite decent. Diane, honestly, not great with the meta right now for demons, but I think you can be usable. Maybe I'm being persuaded a little bit because of the ungeared role. I think she's definitely better in ungeared, but once again, going towards Escanor teams, she's just a good option to go towards. Barn, probably the second best subslot character, depending on what team you're bringing. Obviously, if you're bringing demons, you don't need him. But honestly, in any other team, you're probably using him or Nanashi. Raptalia, honestly, a pretty good character. People sleep on her, man. She is still so good, but the other reason why she's lower is because obviously Nafumi is needed for her. So that kind of limits her a little bit. Once Nafumi dies, she's basically useless. But I think her synergy with Nafumi is broken. And of course, you have these two here, which are just alt rush characters that are not too great, I think, right now, because we have a lot of single target characters in the game, especially right in the meta, but I found a few of them. I don't really use them anymore, but you know, you never know, you might find someone who runs into it. Alright, so now we have top tier. Honestly, I think I might as well just reveal the big three because you can probably tell who are not in the actual list now. But let's go through the top tier first. So I was tempted to put Tamiel here and then put Escanor down here, but Escanor's just so good, man. Like, the fact he doesn't have a team, he's doing this good in the meta, is just insane. Plus, even if you don't really use him on the main team, just slap him in the sub slot when he's 6'6", it's still so broken. But by far, the best non-big three character is obviously Tamiel. Not because of who he is, but the grace is just still so broken. I mean, I've lost games because someone obviously disabled me, they healed back too much. Putting this on the important characters is just so good, he's so broken. Nanashi is just insane right now. The relic is obviously broken for obviously unknown. But even now, people are using him that aren't even in the unknown race. You're using them in demons, you're using them goddesses. The drain is so important, the crit res, the defense rate stats, especially right now with Miguel running around. Insane, top tier, by far, probably one of the best characters in the game right now, just for sub slots, by far the best sub slot in the game. Then Esterosa, he's not bad, he's not great. Honestly, he's just there right now as a support character to imply encroachment, and obviously, the most importantly, the beta stats, especially when you are good up against goddesses. Infinity Merlin, she's just still so good. Like, honestly, I think people sleep on her. I think her and an unknown team, I mean, I'm running her on attack defense, and she's doing so much, she tanks so much as well. She gets such an insane stat increase, such insane buffs from obviously unknowns. And the elements can be a bit RNG, and I think honestly one day we could see her up here. She does get a pretty good relic, but I think she does carry the unknown team a bit because she's still so powerful. Ultimate AoE -5/6 still kills everyone. It's insane. Echidna, she is obviously once again just insane character. I mean, good damage reduction with her relic, beta stats for unknowns, infect, good AoE, broken ultimate. I mean, the ultimate's still a one-shot. The buffs you get, even if you don't one-shot, you're going to kill next, like in the next 1 or 2 skills. She's still so good, man. The infect is just so good right now in the meta, man. Everyone's using Tamiel, everyone life-stealing, especially Mayel, man. Mayel literally heals back everything after 1 skill, so if you're life-stealing, it's so important. Genuinely, I've won so many games because I was able to infect the Tamiel Grace and I was able to kill the person within 1 or 2 times. Ghislaine, honestly, people are just might disagree here, but I think she is top tier. I've used her. I've basically gone Challenger this week with her as well. She is by far an MVP. So her ultimate, despite me having HP defense, one-shots everyone in the game. Mayel might survive, but at that point, the whole team is dead. Such a good tank, bro. Like, I can't stress enough. She's so good. If you're able to mark the actual purgatory Medius, you'll literally have such a good chance of winning. I've started second against demons and won games because her taunt, her actual stat lower, or the attack rate stat lower, is so good. Damage is decent as well for having HP defense. She's a green character, so she can deal with obviously Esterosa, who I typically kill within 1 or 2 turns, especially if you start first. Honestly, I can't stress how good she is. I think people are definitely downplaying her, but after using over like 100 games now, I have like a 70% win rate, despite me starting second most of the games. And she makes the unknown team right now just come together. I mean, if you think about it, the top 2 teams right now are mostly all blue, so she's definitely good. Zeldris is obviously top tier, mainly because of the team and obviously what he wants to do in the team, which is just apply darkness. Honestly, I've never been scared of what Zeldris can do. He does infect, which is definitely important. Gives his team more buffs, which you can't obviously say is bad. And of course, he has an actual single target drain that just doesn't do damage, but it can be helpful. But in my experience in the last few weeks now, he's never really been a threat and he can never really win you the game. Still a top tier character because of the team. So I just want to move on to Elizabeth now. Elizabeth is still very bad to the stats. Like, she's not great, honestly. I mean, she's 3 years old now, probably nearly. It's just the res. The res, you can't kill Mayel in 1 turn. You can't kill Margaret in 1 turn. The shield, the stun, the heal, it's still insane, man. Honestly, if she had stats that is comparable to newer festivals nowadays, it'd be done. I think she would definitely be like, honestly, she might be in the big 3. Margaret is still good, obviously. I mean, pretty self-explanatory. Must have for goddesses. Just insane buffs, insane damage reduction. Her damage is lacking nowadays. Honestly, she's just there to buff up Mayel. Chandler, still very toxic. I've lost a few games because of Disable. You'd still rather probably use, obviously, Zeldris to get constant darkness and obviously infect as well. But I still think if you don't have Zeldris Relic or something like that, I think he's a good choice. Nafumi is honestly still crazy, man. People underestimate him. He is still doing insane damage, especially right now, him being more of a taunt character with defense rate stats. That is very good towards, obviously, the actual Mayel team. Doesn't do too great, obviously, against, you know, the demon team with encroachment. But obviously, with the revive and the fact you can only have 1 debuff on him, yeah, they might misplay and might apply a Sorrow Grace, might play Infect or something. But I think this character is definitely good, especially on Gid. I think the reason why you don't see him is because the character being a collab character is definitely quite rare, and the people that do have him are probably the whales, and since he is not the best team in the game, they're not using him. But trust me, he is definitely still a broken character. Like Elizabeth, I mean, you just rather use blue Elizabeth, so that's kind of put her down a little bit, but she is still quite toxic. I mean, if you get that stat increase, you get the heal off, her lifesteal, and the fact that she can use time grace as well, she can be quite annoying. To be fair, I find her annoying more than the actual blue Elizabeth, and her damage is definitely could be insane as well. You get a tier 3 AoE cover, max orb gauge is going to do a lot of damage. Rimuru is definitely, I still think, top tier a little bit, honestly. I think with the effect, he still has the beta stats he gets, obviously, from himself and the unknown team. The only thing about the character is you definitely want to buff remove to build that passive faster, which is very easy to do with the Mayel team. A bit harder on the demon team if they're not bringing Nanishi buff on. But I do think you can still hit high tiers with him in PvP. Probably not the highest, like top 100, but the guy is pretty good still, honestly. He's, yeah, the damage he can do is insane. Gopher, I mean, the rank up's obviously insane to have still, but the attack still, I mean, it's still so powerful. The Merlin is still insane. I've lost a few games now in PvP because of her just putting a sub slot on second on purpose with Mayel, and obviously got to Elizabeth to where you can get ultimate within 1 turn. It's just so good. Alright, then moving on to the big 3. Do I need to explain? I mean, Mayel was just broken. He literally brought back the goddess team. The damage he does is insane. Escanor, once again, doesn't have a team, but just put him in the sub slot, did unreal damage. He's still top tier. And the fact that he can do so much by himself is just unreal. Once again, if he had the half the support that the goddesses or demons had, he would probably be the best character in the game. And of course, melee. I mean, the guy's broken. I mean, true magic, it just cleanses, kind of negates half the characters in the game. The 30% attack rate stats, 30% damage towards stance characters and debuff characters. He one-shots half the character, like almost every character in the game. But yeah, boys, that is the tier list. Let me know what you think. Obviously, people will disagree here, but I think, generally speaking, this is a pretty true for tier list. I mean, I think, if anything, just more or less focus on the 3 tier list here. These are characters you're just going to see in PP. I think, other than Nafumi, because I still think he's not being used too much, but I think if you go into a bingo list, you'll probably find all these characters within like a day or 2. And there's a reason for that, because they are pretty good, right? I will say Twiggo is not on the tier list. Not that important anyway. He's probably in don't use. I mean, the mono red team's dead, so, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, boys, that is it for today's video. Let me know what you think of the tier list, and do you agree? But that's it for me today. Stay tuned till later today. We're going to be using a Merlin video where I just destroy top tier teams with a, it's just insane. So, thank you for watching, and yeah, peace.